Welcome to Azure IaaS Day. I'm Erin Chapple, and I lead the Azure Core product and design team. For people who are blind, have low vision, or are not able to watch the video, we're sharing visual descriptions today. I'm a white woman with short brown hair wearing a floral blouse. Now, it's amazing to see what you've been able to achieve with all of the pressure and responsibilities placed on you over the last 18 months. The amount of business and social transformation has been historic. And many of you have had to flex your cloud strategy to support these changes, effectively demonstrating how IT can rapidly help a business or an organization meet the changing demands. And IaaS is at the heart of many cloud strategies, as advancements in infrastructure can help you achieve your agility and performance goals, while also realizing cost savings. Today, at Azure IaaS Day, you can take advantage of deep learning opportunities for each of the core elements of IaaS, compute, storage, and networking, that will help you refine, improve, and develop your plan. To kick things off, I've asked a few Azure product leaders to join in a discussion on the latest infrastructure capabilities spanning hybrid, multi-cloud, and edge environments. At the opposite side of the stage is Paul Nash, who leads the compute infrastructure products, including server hardware and virtual machines.
Hi everyone, I'm Paul. It's great to be here. I'm a mixed race, black and white product manager with an equally black and white beard, and I'm wearing red glasses and a blue polo today.
And in the middle is Ong Oh, who leads storage infrastructure products, including disks and files.
Hi, I'm Ong. It's going to be a great chat. I'm an Asian male wearing a gray sweater and look like someone who is in need of a haircut.
And sitting closest to me on the right is Narayan Annamalai, who leads software-defined networking and network security.
Hello, everyone. My name is Narayan. I'm excited to be here. I'm an Asian Indian male wearing glasses and a light red polo.
Now, many customers I talk to are running diverse workloads in the cloud, with a mix of traditional workloads, those they lift and shift to the cloud, more specialized workloads like SAP and high-performance computing, which require optimized infrastructure, and cloud-native workloads that take advantage of modern technologies like containers and serverless and low-code. Now, across all these workloads, the cloud must deliver on the fundamentals, like scalability, performance, availability, and security. So let's start our conversation here. Narayan, as applications scale, great network performance is critical. On premises, people expect very high and dedicated bandwidth. How is Azure Networking able to deliver the performance that many enterprises expect and need when they move these applications to the cloud?
Sure, Erin. Customers need their cloud applications to be responsive and highly performant. With Azure, customers get the best performing cloud network. Not only do we support thousands of enterprises, but it's the same network that supports Xbox and Office 365. So how do we do it? We start by being close to the users. We absorb the traffic into our global network through our POP locations that are strategically placed within 25 milliseconds of 85% of the GDP. With 190 POP locations and over 60 Azure regions, Microsoft has one of the largest wide area networks in the world. Second, once traffic enters our network, by default, we keep it in our backbone as much as possible, and then we route it to its destination. This is called cold Pareto routing. Now, this is different from other cloud providers who by default route through the internet. With our approach and our investments, our inter-region latency is better than internet benchmark 99% of the time.
And this is key to ensuring that application performance is optimal all of the time, compared to internet-based routing. Now, Narayan shared how our backbone network delivers the best performance, but what about compute? Here, conversations commonly focus on price performance and what will deliver the best return. Now, Paul, I know teams work with several hardware partners in this area.
That's right, Erin. So customers love that they can get access to the latest advancements as soon as they're available using cloud. Now, chip technology is getting harder to shrink, but chips are still getting faster and smaller every couple of years. So we're working closely with all our hardware partners to design systems that deliver better price performance every generation. We recently launched our newest V5 family of D&E series VMs using the latest processors from both Intel and AMD. Now, especially during the pandemic, with the shifts that customers are making in where they run things, we're also seeing that their more data-intensive workloads are now moving to cloud. So we also are launching a new EB VMs, and these are specifically designed for the most demanding database and analytics workloads.
And the sheer scale at which Microsoft invests with our silicon partners and early means we can bring customers the best hardware innovation. Now, when it comes to performance, storage plays an equally critical role. Having the right storage configuration ensures workloads get the performance needed to meet demand while keeping costs down. Now, the rapid pace of digital transformation has resulted just in exponential data growth, increasing demand for high-performance cloud storage. What are you hearing from customers on their performance requirements?
This is a great question, Erin. I was having a side conversation with Paul, and customers often tell us that predictable performance and ability to rapidly respond to unexpected spikes is critical in production. Azure offers a comprehensive range of storage service to run the most performance-intensive workloads. As you all walked on, and a good example is SAP HANA, where we provide Azure NetApp files for unique scale-out scenarios and Azure Ultra Disk for scale-up scenarios. Both are SAP certified, delivering high performance and providing sub-millisecond latency for demanding SAP deployments.
And Azure NetApp Files is the only cloud file service in the market that's certified to run SAP HANA. Now, why do you ask? Well, because it provides the same experience in the cloud that customers have on-prem, with no code changes necessary and no training needed. Now, another fundamental is security. Narayan, at Microsoft, we've embraced Zero Trust, a modern security framework for today's most complex environments.
That's right, Erin. See, customers are worried about keeping their digital assets safe and secure. Cyber attacks are rising. Just in the last year, malicious internet traffic has doubled. That's why in Azure, we take a zero trust-based approach to network security. By that we mean never trust and always verify. We start with properly segmenting the network using VNets, subnets, and NSGs, which help in preventing lateral movement of threats and containing risks. Next is to keep the resources protected from the internet, because most vulnerabilities come from the internet. So for example, Azure Bastion is a fully managed service that provides secure RDP and SSH access to VMs without exposing them to the internet. Similarly, Azure Private Link, which is supported by over 60 services, enables users to access the past resources privately. Now, for internet-facing applications, customers can use Azure DDoS, Azure Firewall, and Azure WAF, which all work based on Microsoft's rich threat intel to protect against new and emerging exploits. Now, Azure also has protection against ransomware. I'm sure Ong would like to talk more about that.
Yeah, thanks, Narayan, and thanks for sharing great lists of networking capabilities. We understand that protecting data is top of mind for customers, and ransomware attacks have been making headlines, and customers are justifiably concerned about storage securities. We have automatic encryption for data at rest in Azure storage, and also Azure Backup to address these concerns. All data stored on Azure storage is automatically encrypted at rest through 256-bit AES encryption, which is one of the strongest and most reliable encryption algorithms in industry. Data is encrypted with keys managed by Microsoft by default, or customers can choose to manage their own key for more control. We also offer double encryption for an additional layer of protection to those who need it. And many customers also use Azure Backup, our native backup service, to back up their data on Azure for another layer of protection. The backups are stored on Azure storage, leveraging the enterprise-grade security capabilities, so attackers have no direct access to data. Ransomware attackers have invested heavily in neutralizing backup application, so it is critical to have backups that are inaccessible to a malicious attacker.
Thanks, Ong and Narayan. Now, the end-to-end approach to security that you've described helps customers implement security models at scale across the entirety of their digital estate. Zero Trust is really integral to helping keep environments more secure. Now, we talked about data at rest, so what about protecting data in use? Confidential computing comes up in customer discussions about data protection use cases in both government and commercial spaces. But we believe confidential computing will become a necessary ingredient for all computing infrastructure in the future. Microsoft has been a pioneer in protecting data in use with the introduction of Azure Confidential Computing, or ACC. Paul, will you tell us a little bit about what the role this is playing with customers?
Yeah, well, as you mentioned, the new gold standard is really securing and encrypting data even while it's in use, in addition to when it's at rest or moving on the network. And customers are also wanting to have more security and more control while minimizing the level of trust they're placing in the system, including minimizing Azure's access to their environment. So our mission with ACC is to make all that easy for them. We were the first cloud to support confidential computing, and we're a founding member of the Confidential Computing Consortium. So we're sharing groundbreaking research and building a strong ecosystem of partners and services that help customers build confidential workloads.
And the set of security and confidential computing innovation we recently launched and our existing investments represents significant momentum when we think about the industry moving from computing in the clear to computing confidentially in the cloud and at the edge. Now let's move on from fundamentals to look at the specific needs of business-critical workloads like SAP, HPC, and VMware that often need their own dedicated systems and infrastructure that's optimized. Moving these workloads to the cloud can result in real benefits, including access to the latest hardware innovations, increased agility, and reduced costs. Let's take HPC workloads, for example. So Paul, with the surge in demand for more data-centric form of computing, the challenge is keeping up with the scale and complexity of simulations.
Absolutely. You know, HPC has really emerged recently as an area that's finally ready to move to cloud. Now, it took some time because of the massive scale and the very specialized nature of many of those workloads. And we know that customers have really struggled with prior attempts to modify their workloads to fit more generic cloud capabilities. And that cloud was even often seen as kind of a limited augmentation or a burst out from private resources. So our approach has been the opposite. We have a purpose-built HPC cloud that fits those workloads, using all the latest CPUs and GPUs from Intel and AMD and NVIDIA. And we backed all that with a low latency, high bandwidth InfiniBand interconnect, which is really the standard in the industry. In fact, Azure remains the only public cloud provider with a full HPC toolbox. Customers can go from dedicated supercomputers to InfiniBand HPC clusters and a variety of other VM types to meet their needs. Now, customers are also telling us that storing and accessing all the data behind those jobs is a growing challenge. And Ong, I thought maybe you'd like to share some of the things we're doing on the storage front to help with those challenges.
Thanks, Paul. Along with the computing capabilities that Paul just mentioned, storage is a critical infrastructure component in processing, storing, and analyzing these huge data sets to support HPC workloads. We have a variety of storage offerings to support all our customer HPC workloads. For high-throughput environments, we have Azure Blob Storage, our object storage service, which include NFS version 3 protocol support, multiple performance tiers, and end-to-end data management. Workloads that require low latency can utilize premium blob storage tier. And if a customer also requires high IOPS and low latency, Azure is the only cloud that offers unique services like Azure NetApp Files and Azure HPC Cache.
Thanks, Hong. Now, switching topics again, we know many of you have migrated workloads to the cloud, including some more specialized high-end ones. But there's no question the future of computing is moving towards modern, containerized, low-code anything of a service. As cloud-native workloads increase, so do the infrastructure needs, making enterprise-grade capabilities like those provided by Azure Kubernetes Service, or AKS, more and more important. Now, on top of our continued investments in the platform, we're also building unique capabilities across compute, networking, and storage to ensure AKS meets the needs of the modern enterprise.
Yes, Erin, that's correct. We have seen a significant increase in stateful Kubernetes workloads running on Azure that require persistent storage. These workloads leverage different types of storage, including block, file, and object storage, which are accessed via industry-standard interfaces like the Container Storage Interface, or CSI. Earlier this year, we announced general availability of CSI driver on AKS, making it simpler for customers to access the latest storage capabilities on Azure, such as built-in data durability and high availability with ZRS or zonal redundant storage for multi-zone AKS clusters.
Now, by adopting and using CSI, customers can benefit from updates quicker, as AKS can now write, deploy, and rapidly integrate plugins, exposing new storage capabilities in Kubernetes without having to touch the core Kubernetes code and waiting for its release cycles. Now, customers have also been asking for a rich set of Azure networking capabilities for containers. Narayan, would you talk a little bit about that?
Sure, Erin. Like you said, as customers are increasingly modernizing their application architecture and moving towards containers and serverless deployments, they're looking to reuse the networking technology they have already built. To help with this, we enable existing networking functionality to seamlessly work with containers. I'll provide a couple of examples. Application Gateway Ingress Controller, AGIC, is a layer 7 load balancer that exposes container-based applications to the internet. Now, AGIC monitors for changes in the Kubernetes environment and automatically updates the existing application gateway. Another more fundamental requirement is for the pods to have network reachability to other destinations. Now, Azure's Container Networking Interface, or the CNI, solves this by providing a unique IP address to every pod from the Azure VNet, thus connecting this pod to everything else in the virtual network, including on-premises through express route circuits. And all of this is done with no extra routing or overlay, thereby keeping the network performance high.
So, taking a broad view, we're making control and management of resources easier for enterprise IT by providing more built-in and easy-to-use networking capabilities for container applications.
Right.
Now, wow, we've covered a lot of IaaS capabilities that can help customers achieve their transformation goals quicker and more efficiently. Time really flies when you're talking infrastructure. Thank you, Paul, Ong, and Narayan, for a great discussion.
Thank you. We should do it more often.
Thanks. It was great to be here.
Thank you. It was an interesting discussion.
Now, joining us to share an example of how we're working jointly with customers is Andy Vargas, Vice President and General Manager of the Microsoft Technology Center at Intel.
I'm honored to join you today. For over 25 years, this team has worked directly with Microsoft to light up and optimize features and functionality of Intel technology through the Microsoft platform and help drive innovation in their data centers. I've been lucky enough to have been here from almost the beginning. So I'm particularly excited to share some of the work Microsoft and Intel have done together to make the best possible solutions for all of you. Through the joint initiatives between Intel and Microsoft, we've addressed and solved customer challenges in a variety of industries such as finance, government, and healthcare. Take, for example, the story of IT and biomedical research company Leidos, who faced the challenge of creating a solution to streamline and accelerate the clinical drug approval process. Delivering new drugs quickly and cost-effectively to market while also ensuring safety is one of the greatest challenges faced by the healthcare ecosystem today. Real-world evidence and real-world data are critical to this process. However, patient privacy must be maintained. Leidos partnered with Fortanix to create a service on Azure Confidential Computing utilizing Intel Software Guard extensions to provide the privacy-preserving foundation that allowed Leidos to facilitate real-time sharing of critical, real-world evidence while meeting the stringent patient privacy and industry compliance regulations. I love this example of how our work together is making an impact on improving healthcare. The Leidos example was running on the new DC SV3 VM that is now in public preview. Thank you again for the opportunity to join Azure IaaS Day, and check out our on-demand session where Microsoft's Joe Sherman and I share more about our latest VMs based on the 3rd gen Intel Scalable processor.
Thanks, Andy, for the great example. And thank you to Intel for sponsoring the event. As we wrap this session, thank you for tuning in. I really hope the discussion, along with today's deep dive sessions and chats with experts, gives you the insights that empower you to achieve your cloud goals. Have a great time at Azure IaaS Day.